an FDA advisor and vaccine maker is saying now that the new Omicron booster shot is not for everyone. He said this in plain sight on CNN, but the mainstream media is pretending that he did not. I thought we might do this little exercise together because sometimes I feel like I must be on glue because I search for things that I maybe see on someone posts it on Twitter, and I'm like, okay, let me find that original source myself.
When you say glue, you mean drugs?
Yeah, like, am I sniffing glue because I cannot find this?
Okay.
It's an expression. Like, have I lost my marbles?
No,
right?
No, you haven't, because they keep this stuff from you.
Stain from the wood.
That might be true.
Yes.
So I thought let's try this together. Okay, I'm going to show you something that did happen on CNN with Dr. Paul Offit. He is one of the people on the FDA board that gets to vote yay or nay on COVID vaccines. And he said this to Erica Hill, and then I'm going to see if we can all find it together with just like a quick little search. Okay, so here is what he said, and then I'm going to prove to you that CNN is hiding this. Go ahead.
So the idea is there. The panel is meeting today. It's likely that they're going to recommend, right, this booster that does specifically target Omicron. So when people are trying to understand the difference, how do you explain it to them?
Well, here's what I would say. I think the question is who really benefits from another dose. I mean, the CDC has shown that people who've gotten 3 doses are generally are less likely to be hospitalized than those who got 2, and those who got 4 were less likely to be hospitalized than those who got 3. But who are those people? Who are those people who are getting hospitalized? It really falls into 3 groups. One is the elderly, meaning people over 65. 2 is people who have the kind of serious health problems, say chronic lung disease, which when they get a mild or moderate infection, lands them in the hospital. And 3 is people who are immune compromised. I think what the advisory committee is going to be voting on later this afternoon is are we going to allow distribution of the Moderna vaccine for everybody over 18, of the Pfizer vaccine for everybody over 12? And what I fear is that they're going to say everybody should get it, when in fact a healthy young person really is unlikely to benefit from a booster dose. And so I hope they target it more specifically to those really who are most likely to benefit from this additional dose.
So if they don't, because right now as it stands, if you are 50 and over, or if you have, a pre-existing condition, yes, you could be eligible. But otherwise, as you point out, younger people are not. If it is, in fact, authorized, Pfizer would be authorized for 12 and up, as you point out, Moderna 18 and up. Why not get it, right? If it does give you, even if it's a smaller benefit, is there any reason not to get the booster?
I think when you're asking people to get a vaccine, I think there has to be clear evidence of benefit. And we're not going to have clinical studies, obviously, before this launches, but you'd like to have at least human data. People, getting this vaccine, you see a clear and dramatic increase in neutralizing antibodies. And then at least you have a correlate of protection against BA4, BA5. Because if you don't have that, if there's not clear evidence of benefit, then it's not fair, I think, to ask people to take a risk, no matter how small. The benefit should be clear.
So if you search for this video, it happened just before Labor Day. If you search for, let's say, Paul Offit, Erica Hill, or Paul Offit on CNN, so if you search on Google, if you search on CNN, you only find videos of him from 2021. Or really early in 2022.
Well, no, even if
you really cannot find, and I put it in so many different ways. Paul Offit Omicron booster, Paul Offit CNN, Paul Offit Erica Hill, Paul Offit, like I wanted to find this clip. The only way I could find it was going on Twitter.
So do you want me to, I don't know if you, yeah, I'm
Did
searching.
you find it easily?
No, not at all. I'm searching for it right now. So
okay, I would like anybody in the chat to let me know what is the search terms that you might have found
Let me just, okay. So I searched for it and I found one from 2021. And when I went to go play that video, there's an issue. Now it's been removed. So CNN is like actively blocking and even removing old Paul Offit videos from their own website. Should children be vaccinated? This is from 2021, this video.
But the one we just showed you, which I thought was very interesting because it is for one of the first times we hear a physician saying that we should give the vaccine to people based on who they are and their individual pathology, which has not been allowed during the pandemic up until this point. And so why is this important video that represents a shift in thinking being taken down and blocked, right? So I just want to know if you have another tab open, let me know if you were able to find this video and what are the search terms. So again, the mainstream media is kind of pretending he did not say this. So just a few days ago, he published this in the Wall Street Journal. He says that the CDC is overselling the bivalent COVID shot. Now, this is an interesting take. I like this one person on Twitter saying that if this guy is saying that, then we really need to watch out, because he is not what we'd call an anti-vaxxer, although I don't like that word. Because it's sort of, it's like how it's got this negative connotation of someone who is not rational. He's not someone who is not for vaccines. In fact, he co-invented the rotavirus vaccine. What he's saying in this article is that the calculations of risk to benefit does not land in favor of taking this booster, especially for people who are healthy. So as you saw, Erica Hill pushed him and said, well, why not take it, as if it's just kind of like an extra multivitamin? But it's not like that, because there are risks. He still thinks it may be a favorable calculation for some populations, he says in the clip: the elderly, people with serious health concerns, and people who are immunocompromised. But he also says that he voted out against rolling out this new booster before clinical trials because he actually is a member of the FDA Vaccine Advisory Committee. He also says this in the Wall Street Journal, and I had not heard this before. He says, most worrisome, Moderna recently published a study on the clinical efficacy of the bivalent vaccine containing BA1. 16 cases of SARS-CoV infections occurred, 11 in the bivalent group and 5 in the monovalent group. So for those who suffered clinical illness, 5 were in the bivalent group and only 1 in the monovalent group. In other words, although the numbers were small, it seems like the monovalent vaccine performed better than the bivalent vaccine. So we know that Pfizer's vaccine has both BA4 and BA5, right? We know that Moderna's only has, in the UK, the one they're giving is BA1. And I think there also is a BA4 or 5 version in the United States, but it's just one. Right. And so he's saying that there is some data that Pfizer's would be less effective because it's got 2 variants, whereas the ones that only have, and so, but we're not being told that.
No, we're not being told that at all.
At all.
You had, last week we had the head of the CDC, Walensky, Dr. Walensky, literally saying, she's like, our new plan for the fall is just go get the shot. Don't even ask questions. Like, that's our new mantra for the fall. That's what she said for the autumn.
Right.
Just go get the shot. When she was pressed on that issue, like, well, here's what we're seeing. What about myocarditis? What about these issues? You know what? We just got a new mantra for the fall, and that's just go get the shot.
Don't ask those questions, right? In fact, this is a nurse from San Diego. We're about to play you a video. She treated children in the cardiovascular intensive unit, and she says she's lost her job for asking questions about adverse effects. In fact, we don't have to go over all the serious adverse effects. We have them from Pfizer's own published data. There are enough anecdotally to consider. But this woman says because she was seeing these serious adverse effects in children, she asked her boss, why are we not reporting these to VAERS? And she lost her job. Listen.
Tony Bittner, I came before you guys a year ago. I'm a nurse, or at least I was, at Rady Children's in the cardiovascular intensive care unit until Nathan and his misinformation pandemic caused me to lose my job. I took care of those children who came in with myocarditis after the vaccine. And I talked to the doctors because I was a charge nurse, saying, why aren't we reporting these to VAERS? Who is going to report these to VAERS? It was an unspoken thing that we were not allowed to talk about openly on the unit. I've worked for 13 years in this community, taking care of some of the sickest patients. The day before I was taken away from my position, I was actively giving compressions to a child, pushing epi, pushing calcium into his veins to keep him alive. And we did. And he went home. And yet, I was ridiculed by those who were supposed to be my colleagues and my friends. I am the face of your misinformation campaign, Nathan. I am the one who lost my career in pediatric cardiovascular ICU care. I took care of children who had COVID. I never got COVID in the hospital. I tested twice a week. I wore my PPE because I loved my job. And I loved this community.
Thank you.
Okay. So the Nathan that she's talking to is the Board of Supervisors, a local supervisor in San Diego County, who last year said he wanted to combat health misinformation because of what he thought was low vaccine adoption. So he went out and started attacking people who would say anything against this vaccination program. Obviously, this woman has a perspective that is important. She worked all throughout the pandemic. She's saving lives, children's lives. She's asking questions. She didn't even say like, hey, let's tell the world about it. She just said, let's tell the FDA about it.
Right.
Let's tell the VAERS system, the adverse reporting system. Let's report it up to the normal channels. She was not trying to speak to the media. She's not posting things on social media, right? She wants to go through the normal channels, and she's canceled because of what this local supervisor is calling health misinformation. Obviously, her experience, I don't know how you can say that her experience is health misinformation. But again,
someone in our chat says when a nurse says there's a problem, you listen.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're seeing it. They're in the trenches, right?
Right.
And it's a great point about just reporting it to the VAERS system. We've talked about on this show how the VAERS system, we're one of the few countries that actually has, I mean, us in the UK, right, these adverse effects reporting systems. Israel didn't have one. And look what trouble they got in as a result of it. But it's only a fraction of the problems even go to that system in the first place. Imagine.
Well, and Peter McAuliffe said it's probably around 1% to 2% is all we get because of situations like this. They don't. It's very time consuming, like 40 minutes to an hour to fill out, and you need a professional because you have to put in terminology that most patients wouldn't know.
Most lay people, you can't just say like, Mom, go to that VAERS system and tell them what happened to you at the hospital. They're not going to do it.
But you'd think if you're someone like this, who seemingly well-intentioned, and you've just taken your hands off of a sick child and you're like, something's not right in the world, you are at that point extremely motivated to go and take this up the proper channels so that that child did not suffer in vain. Right. And you can then elevate this cause so that it prevents future suffering of children. And if she's not even allowed to do that with the tools that we've got, something is seriously wrong here when we're not even asked
to... Well, she's treated like... I was just going to say she's treated like she's got an agenda of some kind, but it's like, no, my agenda is to save these children, to help these people. But it's like if you talked negatively about any of it, you had an agenda, and that just makes no sense.
Right. And I don't know what are the other circumstances around her termination. Maybe she was seeking help from supervisors and that was not allowed. I'm sure there's plenty that we don't know. But this clip has rallied a lot of people and said, it's not misinformation to listen to her experience. Let's listen to her experience. And then also, can you please tell me how many of these children she, in fact, did treat, and were they reported? This is provable. We can seek that out through patient records.
Right. Yeah, it'd be easy to track that. Just like last week when we talked about the blood clots on the show. Go ahead, Philip.
I was gonna say it's very similar just in that explanation. Like to use another example, like if I'm at work and I see a clear like safety hazard, I'm looking at something, I was like, that could hurt somebody. And so I go to like my department safety people and I'm like, hey, I think this thing over here could hurt somebody. And they're like, well, that is complete misinformation. You're fired.
Yeah.
Like, misinformation to who?
Right.
Like if you're
meaning like, they don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Also, someone in our chat just said the proper channels. I like that. That's a good point. I hadn't thought about it, right? She just was trying to report this to the proper channels, but what if the proper channels are total garbage to begin with? right? What if they have an agenda from the beginning?
But those kind of people who go around the proper channels are easier to bat down because you could just play whack-a-mole with them. Like, oh, you're being a crazy person on the internet. You should have come to your supervisors. Instead, you ran your mouth on Facebook and got us all in trouble. But if someone is actually trying to use the tools at their disposal, it's harder to knock down that person.
Yeah, I guess. But I mean, my point is, if the tools at your disposal are fake or are...
Well, they're highly problematic,
right.
Absolutely. And we don't even get that data. We've had to parse it out of Pfizer's data. I think what's important about this story, though, obviously this person is a casualty of so many things, right? I could go down a list. But she's trying to ask questions about adverse effects that we have not been able to ask. And now we are actually getting a vaccine advisor who is saying that now we need to start to evaluate what we respond to in the pandemic based on individual pathology. So if you are not elderly or immunocompromised, maybe it's not time for you to, lock down, take these vaccines, right? Instead of during the pandemic, the heart of it, when we all had to lock down, all kids were taken out of school, we all had to take these vaccines, right? So it's time now to consider individual health because this per population calculation should have been always done like this. It's shameful that it took so long.
Yeah, truly. Truly, and as someone has said in the chat just a moment ago, they went to try to find that transcript of that Paul Offit interview has also been removed and scrubbed. So, yeah, they're doing...
Okay, so I'm not... I'm crazy. I am.
You are crazy.
But I'm not crazy for this. This is actually being hidden from us. Okay?
Yes. Absolutely.
Thank you for validating me on that point. You guys, I go nuts when I see something on Twitter and I'm like, I should see that for myself. And then I go seek it out and it's just not there. What the hell is going on in this world? That things that are just not favorable to the mainstream narrative are kept from us. Thank you for helping me with that. Thank you.
Well, we don't even have a browser we can use anymore. Like, what do we use? You used to use DuckDuckGo. They were supposed to not filter, but now they do. So it's like we have nothing. We have to just go through all these different blogs and stuff that are out of the US and try to piece it together. It's hard.
Yeah, that's why our job takes all day to put this show together.
Yeah.
Because to pull and go through old, documents and have people sending you PDFs and sources material. And I mean, it's crazy. And even today, Senator Ron Johnson's office requested YouTube to and answers from the head of YouTube. Why are you censoring a sitting U.S. senator who's literally publishing and providing information from these drug manufacturers' very own reported documents? Why are you censoring them? And so Senator Ron Johnson's
very own
office,
documents, the very documents that if you yourself try to find, you cannot. You cannot find those documents.
And it's a sitting senator publishing this information, and Senator Ron Johnson's office is demanding answers. So again, it's unbelievable.